And now I'm pleased to introduce the next conversation, Tech Disruption for a Sustainable Future. Please join me in welcoming Elizabeth Gore, Dell Inc. Entrepreneur in Residence, Adrian Grenier, actor, entrepreneur, and Dell Social Good Act Advocate, Teresa Thompson, Dell Inc. Chief Responsibility Officer, Leila Jannah, CEO, founder, Sama Group, and Pete Cashmore, founder and CEO of Mashable. Welcome.
Well, good afternoon, everybody.
Woo!
All right.
Hello.
How are you? Good? All right, well, we're going to talk about disruption. I love getting in trouble, so this is perfect. It's so fun. And how is technology really going to help create a sustainable future? So we were chatting backstage, and we decided that we're going to give you our tweet answer first. So each of us are kind of give you something we hope you might push out to the world, and then maybe you can tell us back how you think technology is going to disrupt and create a sustainable future. So I hope sustainability, we can soon figure out how to monetize it.
I'm just really excited that there's something in the zeitgeist right now where everybody's coming together to create a net positive in the world.
Trissa?
We hope that technology solutions are used by all of our customers in all the fields of education and healthcare and other industries to really change the world in sustainability.
Pete?
Yeah, I think with technology we can innovate our way to a brighter future and a more sustainable world.
John?
I think technology will connect the world's poor to what they need most, which is dignified work.
Awesome. So Trissa, I'm actually going to start with you.
Okay.
You know, as Dell is a huge technology company, and what are you seeing are the trends towards sustainability with technology?
So there are a lot of trends heading towards, using technology. It's interesting. So the business models are changing so dramatically. Even if you just look at the mobile technology, if you look at an Uber company and how their back office infrastructure is significantly smaller than things used to be, or if you look at an Airbnb, talk about a sustainable company. They didn't actually have to build a hotel. They didn't have to build a parking lot. So they started this incredible business that also changed the barriers to entry. Mm-hmm. So you're seeing a lot of the technology just change the business models, but you're also seeing it used in many ways. So we're using technology, if you look at the Internet of Things, we're using technology with a university in China, and what they're really looking at is the traffic patterns in one of the major cities in China, and so there's monitors that can measure that. So they're using the technology and the big data, and that's just the tip of the iceberg of what you're going to be able to see in the future.
And Pete, how does communications fit on all of this? You sit on such a huge platform.
Yeah, so Mashable, started 10 years ago now, and we've always been about this idea that, it started in my bedroom in Scotland when I was 19, and I was able, through the web, to start a company, to start a movement, and get people involved. So really, for Mashable, it's about, well, how can we give everyone that connect? I started on a Dell, actually. Props to Dell. A little Dell laptop I had in my bedroom, and, I still have it. I think for Mashable
it might be time to upgrade.
We have some new versions.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it was about, well, look, I can be empowered by connectivity. And what if everyone was connected? What if everyone in the world had access to the internet, to the web? And how could other people be entrepreneurial or express their message? So that's why we started the Social Good Summit, of course, was to help connect people around the world with their message, bring people on stage, and obviously live stream it around the world. So for us, it's about how do we tell those stories on Mashable, and how do we give people a voice, and how do we connect the world so that everyone can be engaged?
And Lila, you've used technology to actually bring employment, and good employment, to the world. Talk about that.
Sure. So our organization, SamaSource, connects some of the world's poorest people who make less than $2 a day, to dignified work through the internet. So we do image tagging and data processing for major companies as a way to reduce poverty. And the model's moved about 7,000 people from an average of $2 a day to over $8 a day, mostly from slums and villages in East Africa and South Asia. And so we think access is the starting point, and it is an absolute necessity. People are now saying that connectivity should be at the base of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We totally agree. And we think the ending point is self-actualization through dignified work. So getting a living wage and using that living wage to fund all of the things that we traditionally fund through charity, education, healthcare, and you name it. So it's really, we think that's at the core of empowerment.
Adrian, you've kind of connected the platform of entrepreneurship and sustainability. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I've been working, I think pretty much my whole life with people who care about the world around them. I mean, starting with my mother, and having that education, but also, hi, Mom. Yeah.
Stand up, stand up. Woo! Yay, moms!
And then as I got older with organizations, and now as an entrepreneur, working with big companies and corporations to help the world be a better place. And it's been really exciting because you start to see the scale of it all with corporations who have that global reach and that global impact. And working with Dell now as their social good advocate, I've seen it firsthand, the amount of movement that can actually occur when they're breaking down barriers for the smaller entrepreneurs and the moms of the world, and giving them an opportunity through technology to connect and coordinate their effort.
And I love talking about the triple bottom line for business of people, planet, and profit. The other day, Lila was on a panel, and a gentleman who has a huge company was using your outsourced services, and he looks over and says, "You're a nonprofit?" He had no idea. You talk a lot about not just jobs, but quality jobs using technology. Can you talk about that for a second?
Sure. I think what technology enables is radical transparency in employment, and we're seeing it now with the rise of the contingent workforce. We just launched a program, it's about to launch in New York City, across the US, training low-income people to take advantage of the gig economy. So sites like Lyft and Uber and TaskRabbit and Care.com. And one of the benefits of these types of jobs is that there's much better wage information. So you're much less likely to get exploited because you can see what other people are making. There's an entirely new set of data that technology makes available. And I think especially when working in low-income countries, the risk is a race to the bottom and a sweatshop type situation. I think technology helps us avoid that, especially when companies publish wage data and are totally transparent.
It'd be interesting to merge the circular economy with the latent economy and kind of see what happens. And Tracy, you talk a lot about the circular economy. Can you kind of explain why do you think that's a trend and so on?
No, absolutely. I suspect in this crowd you don't need to explain very much of the background of the circular economy, but it's about a company really starting to think of material as an investment instead of a piece of trash. And that's one of the things we've really started to focus on. So when we collect recycling, our products, and we're the largest recyclers of e-waste geographically in the world, we're now taking the plastic out of that and putting it back into 34 systems. So we've started that system, and we're continuing to work on that, but that's just the beginning. We've got some other announcements I'm not allowed to say yet coming up tomorrow about some other products that we're going to be taking recycled products, but from other companies. So we're going to take someone else's trash from another company, make it our treasure. And there's a lot more collaboration that can be done in that area.
Because all the Sustainable Development Goals are connected, I wanted to ask you have a big passion for the oceans. And does technology and sustainability kind of fit into this whole notion of plastics into the ocean? How are we pulling that back? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, working with Dell has been a real pleasure just because they actually are listening to me, not just myopically focused on their bottom line, but they're actually sensitive enough to those of us who are on the ground in areas that they may not be familiar with. And I've been doing a lot of work in the oceans, and they said, well, we want to help you do what you're doing. So we've been looking at how we together can address the problems of the oceans. And they're vast, it's big, it's often mysterious, but I think the only way we can really address it is through technology. So we have a couple of programs in the works, and we hope to announce them very soon. So do stay tuned, because we're going to do something big, I can tell.
It's a good partnership.
Good. And Pete, in terms of everyone in this audience and you being such an expert on information, how is technology and information going to help all these people be a part of the sustainability movement?
Right, well, I mean, we know information is power. I mean, anywhere where there is any kind of restriction on information is because people know it's an incredible source of power, it's an incredible source of influence. So I think with the web and with hashtags and connectivity, we've never had this degree of connectivity. People are more informed. I think you've seen it in the trajectory of the Social Good Summit. When we started out, people said, who's going to change their lives with a tweet? Who's going to go on Facebook and make a difference in the world? So I think what we're really seeing is the power of information to change things. I think people should share out. They should communicate with their friends. Everyone now is a publisher, just like us. And when we all come together and we publish to our friends, we do actually influence their opinions. So I think that's the power of information, is really information is power. And that really, with these tools, we're also connected, that we can create a ripple that becomes a wave that becomes, an entire ocean. So,
Lila, we've talking on a massive scale. Can you bring it down and just tell us maybe a story of maybe a group of women who you saw here, and then now they're empowered through technology and working, and can you bring that to a personal story for us?
Sure. I was going to use women, but because my example that comes to mind is a refugee, and refugees are so top of mind right now with the Syrian crisis, I'll use him. So I was just in Kenya and Uganda 2.5 weeks ago, and I met up with a South Sudanese refugee who first worked for Samasource in Dadaab refugee camp, which is one of the worst places in the world I've ever visited. It's 800,000 people living in dire poverty at the border of Kenya and Somalia. And this guy had been a lost boy. He'd left South Sudan on foot, made it to a Kenyan refugee camp, and grew up his entire life in this camp, and managed to get a high school education at the one-room schoolhouse in the camp. And then, like all of these youth there, had no prospects. He couldn't leave the camp. He couldn't technically work. And so we set up a program that allowed him to do this digital work. And he worked for us for a couple of months, made some money. We had to suspend the program for security reasons, but importantly, he got online as a result of seeing that there was an incentive now for him to use the internet. He got online, he found me on Facebook, he kept up with me over the years, and 4 weeks ago, I pinged my Facebook community and I asked if anybody had a connection at the US Embassy in Nairobi, and he got an appointment to be granted asylum here in the US. And I'm hosting him. If anyone wants to host a refugee or be part of this, come see me after, because there's a huge need for people to sign up, even for a few months. And it's one thing that you can do to make a huge difference in people's lives. But I just wanted to share that technology is amoral. It doesn't have a view. It's like roads. It's infrastructure. It is up to us to use it to widen our circle of empathy. And I think that's ultimately what this is about. It's about now seeing someone on the other side of the world that we can relate to just like we relate to our neighbor, and feeling the same level of moral commitment to that person that we feel to those immediately around us. And that's what the global goals are about, and I think technology facilitates that beautifully, but we have to make it so.
Let's give that a round of applause. That's pretty great. Trista, you all have, Dell's been really focused on Goal 8, and how do we ensure that entrepreneurs are getting the access to capital they need to create jobs? Can you talk about why that's important and why the focus on that?
Oh no, it's so important, and technology hopefully will enable some of that. But Michael will even tell this story about when he was trying to decide where he was going to locate one of his companies, one of our offices, and he ended up in Morocco, and the rest was in more Middle East, and the jobs didn't occur there, but a lot of really good jobs happened in Morocco, and Morocco's still at peace. And you look at some of the other regions where they're not. You have to have jobs. You can't have a lot of youth unemployed without things to do. So it's the way the jobs will be generated. It's not all going to be big corporations like Dell, although we will help the entrepreneurs and we'll help that next wave of Michael Dells come through. And we work in education. So just closing the digital divide, when you talk about it was his first time he had access, that's something we focus on as well.
Well, and if I can just add, you think about the interconnectivity of all the goals. It's true. You help, one goal, and it's going to support the other. You help entrepreneurs, and through circular economies, building them so that we're not only helping the entrepreneurs build businesses that help the local economies, but also take waste out of the waste stream and then put it back into the economy and create more wealth for the communities and the world environmentally. So it really is all connected. So I'm focused on goal 14, goal 8, and that together
They
they're
cross.
actually, they do cross.
That's awesome. So in our last few seconds here, I want you to do maybe what you think anyone in this audience could potentially do with technology to change lives in 10 seconds or less, and we'll start with Lila.
I'll say give work. There are so many ways to help marginalized people by employing them, whether it's going to your local Goodwill and purchasing something, or looking at helping someone through your business by hiring people on TaskRabbit who come through our program. But there are a lot of other nonprofits doing this work now. We call that impact sourcing.
Great. Pete?
I think tell your stories. I think one of the incredible things, just building on a point from earlier, that we've seen at Mashable is it all comes down to an individual story. You know, we've been covering this refugee crisis. It's only when you see the photo of the child on the beach that you suddenly say, you connect with it personally, you say, oh, I understand this. This could be my family. This could be my son. This could be my parent. And I think if you can tell the stories of the people who are affected on a personal level, that connects so deeply with people. We also live in such a global society now that one of the things we've seen on Mashable is that we can tell stories from around the world and people can relate to them because everyone knows someone there now. Everyone knows someone in a country that's affected. So I think tell stories, spread the message. And make sure it's a personal story because people can really relate to those.
Great. Trissa?
Create businesses that create jobs, mentor, and teach a child.
Awesome. Adrian?
I'd say recycle, but better yet, upcycle your old technologies. And through the Dell program with Goodwill, you can donate your old technologies, and then Dell will put those into new computers. So that's what I would say.
All right.
Upcycle.
Thank you.
I hope all of you.
Oh, your old computers. So.
I'm keeping it. It's a memento.
Hopefully all of you can use technology to disrupt for good. And thank you again to our panelists.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Yeah.